By the power of Grayskull.
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 I want to talk about Hello, I'm Justin.
And I'm Kyle.
And we are the Mirror Twins, the new CG He-Man. That's what people are calling it, the CG Masters of the Universe, because it's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's the same title they've had for 2 other shows, so it's hard to distinguish, so people just call it the CG He-Man.
It's not just the Netflix He-Man?
No, because the other He-Man, the Revelations, is a Netflix He-Man.
That doesn't exist.
I love you. We are going to talk about this just because I want to. I don't think enough people talk about it, especially people our age. I think a lot of people have dissed Revelations. Just to let you know, Kyle and I haven't even seen it. We're not really interested.
I saw like 2 episodes.
Of Revelations?
Yeah.
What did you think?
The episodes I saw were the action-packed ones, so there wasn't a lot of talking. I mean, the action was pretty good. What happened was kind of silly. It's not what I would have expected. Like you said, people talk to death about it. I didn't like how some of the characters were portrayed. It just wasn't fun.
I think that's the best way to describe it. It just wasn't fun. And
it
you
wasn't
only saw
fun
2
to
episodes.
watch. Yeah, it wasn't fun to watch. The stuff that happened didn't make a lot of sense. The Netflix Transformers was kind of the same thing. It was just a downer the whole time. Everybody was so serious. It was ridiculous to see these characters in any other situation. Yeah, it was war-torn and everything, and it was terrible. But it was like, Alicia 1 was like, Optimus, we have to save everyone. Do you want to get a cup of coffee? At what cost? And it was like, everything is so dramatic.
What made Revelations not fun?
I guess just how mean the characters were. Especially, I only saw a few minutes of Teela. She didn't like anyone. She was just mean. Yeah, and super selfish, too.
For something...
well, that's not how I feel. Me.
For something was advertised as a direct sequel to the 80s show, yeah. That's what people are saying, that these characters do a 180 and it doesn't make any sense, and even the motivations they try to explain why they were like that didn't really play.
But anyway, we're here to talk about
the CG He-Man. So going
CG Man,
yeah, going straight from that, talking about what they did wrong, talking about what Transformers did wrong. I always like to do this mental exercise. Name for me what are the 5 to 10 components, and do this at home when you're trying to judge. They try to capture an old property in a new way. Name for me the 5 to 10 components that must be there to really capture what that show is. Let's talk about He-Man.
Okay.
So I think right off the bat, you have to have a kid named Adam that has a sword and he transforms into He-Man. That's like 1 or 2 things. And what's another thing?
I think the hero, He-Man, he was not violent at all. The original He-Man. He was a person who always wanted to do the right thing. So
if you were to boil that down to something, if they were to reboot this series, what would you say is a component that has to be
compassionate hero.
All right, that's a good one. I say another core component is it has to take place in a fantasy world. It has to take place on Eternia.
Okay.
It can't be Earth.
A good versus evil.
It has to be a good versus evil story. The villain must be a skeleton man named Skeletor. I think that if you're going to reboot something, it has to be that, right?
And I think for He-Man specifically, he has to be kind of leaning towards that old school mustache twirling evil villain.
Skeletor has to?
Yes, because I think that they made him sympathetic. Modern villains have to have a reason now. They can't just be evil, which is fine, but I think they do have to be evil. They have to be like that old school Disney evil villain. They can't be like, oh, Skeletor.
And that's what, you bring up a really interesting point, because to me, my problem and your problem isn't with modern villains now having motivation, which in the old school they didn't. Motivation's great. It adds layers. It adds depth. It gets you into their heads. Yeah. Making that motivation seem like, are they really the bad guy, or is the good guy the bad guy? I think that's where you cross the line. I think in some stories that does work, and that is cool, but you're seeing that overused, I think.
Now,
and even done poorly. Because I think
Yeah.
you can do that if done really well.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, is that motivation strong enough to justify their actions?
It depends on the story, too. I think it works with certain stories. I think with a He-Man type thing or these older properties, I think you need to do more they're evil. It works better that way.
Okay, why is that?
One, probably, I'm going to say, is just for nostalgic reasons.
Okay.
That's probably one factor. If you did make a sympathetic villain, again, it could work if you do it right, but I think it wouldn't feel right for those characters, especially when you have a purple man with claws and a skeleton face, and then you
Crying in the corner.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
I think it just wouldn't make any sense. And
Okay.
if you didn't have him look like that, well, then he's not even Skeletor anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tangent.
Okay. No, that's what we're here. We're here for tangents.
We're here for
tangents. Let's just meander.
Let's
meander.
This is the tangent show.
We're gonna rebrand ourselves. Twin tangents. That's ambiguous.
I'm just a tangent of you, actually.
Yeah. Aw. I'm a cosine of you.
I'm a cosine.
What's another
Math humor.
We're losing people. We're saying like math humor. People are unsubscribing. I hear it. What's another one? Okay, so we had things like the names of characters. They had that. It has to be a hero that transforms. Has to have a villain. The villain has to be evil. It has to take place in a fantasy world. Secret identity.
I don't know if it would work as well if people knew who He-Man was.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of goofy. They kind of just did the Superman secret identity in the original cartoon.
I'm not Prince Adam. I'm tan.
Yeah, it's like, I wear pink. He-Man doesn't wear pink. You guys look really similar. No.
Yeah,
No.
you're just as huge as he.
The villain team, they have more the team aspect, which there wasn't in the original. It was pretty much
It was
just
like the
He-Man.
goon of the week.
It was...
Oh, you mean the good guys?
The good guys didn't really have a team. He had help,
Yeah.
but it was mostly He-Man doing it.
Yeah, the other characters just showed up to be like, buy my toy, and then leave.
Yeah, I mean, Man-at-Arms did some cool things.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
Tila was in there a lot.
Tila was in there a lot.
Orko, every
She was
episode.
pretty cool a lot of the time. Orko would just start the plot a lot of times because he would mess up something. You didn't really have that team dynamic,
Yeah.
which the new one does.
Are you saying that's one of the rules?
I think for the bad guys, you need to have a big cast of bad guys. Or
Okay.
not too big, but you need to have at least 4 or 5 bad guys
Okay.
to go up against He-Man, because in the original, He-Man was so much more powerful than the bad guys that they needed that many people just to do something. You gotta have a cat. You gotta ride a giant cat.
That transforms named Battle Cat.
Yeah.
He-Man has to have a core group of characters that are his friends.
Yeah.
That he relies on when he needs them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's important that they're his friends also.
So going back to why we're doing this mental exercise, if you boil down any property and you want to see a reboot, and sometimes it's hard to shorten your list just to 5 things.
Oh, yeah.
But
I found that difficult right now.
Or 10 things. Do that. What is the most important thing? And I do that to illustrate that the early 2000s Ninja Turtles and this new CG Man did that. They took that list and said, as long as we have these, we're gonna be okay. And obviously good writing and good animation and stuff like that goes without saying. And I think this show is ridiculously good. Some people are saying it's only good in comparison to Revelations. I say nay.
No. If Revelations didn't happen, this would still be an awesome show.
This is still an awesome show. It is a total reimagining. Whereas I feel like the 2000s Ninja Turtles was so close to the original, it's really just a reboot. And where that line is subjective and you can argue, but I think this is unarguable because there's so many changes. Before we get into the show, if you're ready to get into the show,
Yeah.
let's talk about our relationship to the original He-Man.
Okay.
We were very young when the original He-Man came out, but we were old enough to remember it.
This is 83.
Old enough to remember it barely.
Yeah.
We have the toys. I have vague recollections of watching it on TV. I don't really remember watching it on TV, but I remember the toys.
We had a couple of the VHSs. I remember watching those when we were older, when we were middle school, high school. A friend of ours has the DVD collection.
Yeah.
And we tried to watch those.
It's hard to get through.
It's hard to get through. He-Man has not aged well.
He-Man was not our favorite. We had the toys because
Yeah.
all kids in the 80s, I think it was like if you could afford them, you must have He-Man toys. It was law. We liked it because we
Enjoyed
like
it,
you know
yeah.
it's part of the holy trinity of 80s cartoons. But He-Man was not our favorite. It wasn't our least favorite because I liked He-Man better than G.I. Joe. Although we did have tons of G.I. Joe.
Heroes back then were super muscular and didn't wear a lot of clothes.
Yeah.
Thanks to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Thanks to the popularity of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, that was a direct result to how heroes were thought of and drawn. All heroes back then, Transformers included, your heroes were always adults. Because the idea was you look up to what you want to be. Now all your heroes, I think anime really started that. All your heroes are kids. And the idea is, oh, you want something to relate to, not to look up to, but to relate to. And your heroes are not perfect as they were back then. He-Man still struggled. Optimus Prime still struggled.
Yeah.
Lion-O still struggled. Lion-O tried to meet the middle, right?
Right.
He tried to be both. He tried to be the adult and the kid.
Yeah, he was a kid in an adult's body.
Yeah, it was a weird thing, but they were trying to do both. Look up to, but also relate to.
He was still learning. He still made mistakes.
Yeah.
But even Optimus Prime did too.
Yeah, but for the most part, Lion-O notwithstanding, but like Duke, Optimus Prime, He-Man, they were all pretty perfect most of the time. They still made mistakes. There were still some He-Man episodes where He-Man was like, what's the right thing to do? But they were few and far in between.
Right. Usually did everything right.
Yeah.
He always had the power to do whatever.
Yeah.
Like he never, is He-Man gonna do it? Is he gonna be strong enough to save the people? Oh, he threw the mountain into space. Okay, never mind.
It's the Superman complex. It's more like, how is he going to do it? Not if he can.
Because you know he can.
Yeah, because he's He-Man. He's the most powerful man in the universe. This is weird as an adult. Do you feel like it's better to look up to someone, see someone older and say, that's what I want to be? Or is it better to have someone your same age or slightly older where you can more relate to them? Oh, they're a kid like me. Is there...
I don't know if I can even answer that question because
we have gray hairs now?
No, well, it's through the lens of nostalgia. It's like when we were kids, your heroes were adults. And I don't think I could mentally go back in time.
Not without a lot of medication.
Not with... Don't do drugs, kids. I don't think I could do that and then say that's what I wanted, that's what I prefer. I feel like it's just that's the way we grew up. Our heroes were adults. I don't know. How would you answer that question? I have a difficult time answering that question.
I can't answer it. That's why I asked you.
Well, thanks for
spot.
putting me on the spot.
It's obviously working. I think there is definitely something to it. The demographic for this show is always going, and anime as well, it's always younger than the characters. The characters are just outside the age, right? Of the target demographic. So there's still an older kid, but they're not an adult.
They're not so young they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like Pokemon.
Yeah.
He's what, 10 or 11?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
out in the world by himself?
Yeah.
Like,
where are your parents?
Yeah.
Oh,
At
the
11.
microphone wasn't plugged in. So sorry for the bad sound. We're going to plug the microphone back in. We're not going to redo any of this, but the sound is going to improve in just a second. Now the sound should be better. I apologize for that.
Magic.
So hopefully people didn't click off of this video. Oh, the sound stinks! Moving into this show, what I was saying earlier is that it hits all the parts. They took what was needed and changed it, modernized it. They made the lead character, which we don't have here. These are my kids' toys.
Where is He-Man?
They didn't want He-Man. They want the bad guys. Except for Duncan and
What are you teaching
Battle
them?
Cat. They're my children. What do you expect? With a market that's being totally inflated and we're having toys, go up $20, $30. In this case of Lego, these are at a cheaper price point. And they're good enough. They look like the characters. They meet all the requirements, I feel, for a younger audience for the toys. You watched the first 2 seasons. As of the recording of this video, the 3rd season came out last week, though I think this video may air several weeks after that comes out. Oh, by the way, spoilers, okay? If we haven't sold you on it, go watch it. Now, it's really good if you have Netflix. It is meant for a younger audience.
But it's fun.
It's
an enjoyable watch. It's not super heavy.
But there's still some stuff. It's not super kiddie either.
No, there's good stuff. There's stuff to keep the adults interested.
Yeah, morals, lessons, and stuff.
And just the characters.
But don't go in expecting your He-Man that you remember. It's different.
No, you can't even watch that.
Yeah, it's different. They changed a lot. Like, Prince Adam's a kid. They did that with the Mike Young He-Man in the early 2000s. They made him more of a kid. And this one, he's even younger.
Going in the plot, right?
Yeah.
So he's lost his memory.
He was taken outside of the castle very young, and he doesn't know he's the heir apparent.
Right.
He's the prince. He's raised by the tiger tribe of talking tigers out in the jungle with another orphaned girl.
The king assume he's gone, or
I think
just
so.
okay. So he thinks his son is lost forever. I'm not going to say the D word.
Destroyed?
Destroying. Yes, another dimension.
Because you can't say that on
No.
kids' cartoons. Even now.
Yeah.
Even now you can't say it. It's like, he's going to destroy me. That sounds so silly.
Yeah, I love how creative the writers are. There was a Spider-Man cartoon where Deadpool said he's gonna unalive him. And it's like, that's so creative. Anyway, the king has kind of turned into this really gruff person.
There's no Queen Marlena.
He's in the castle, advanced technology.
Yes.
More so than the original.
But magic exists in this world, and it's normalized. It's even better than they do in Star Wars. Because in Star Wars, it's like, most people know magic exists, depending on where in the universe you exist. So I guess some people don't know there's Force. It's kind of like this, there's those weird space wizards that do it.
Yeah.
But in this one, like, oh no, there's this advanced technology, and there's people who know how to use magic.
It's like King Arthur's court. If King Arthur had all this advanced technology and weapons and lasers, but you also had a wizard friend.
Yeah, that uses technology too, but they can do things that are outside of machines. They can do magic and
Teleporting and...
yeah, but technology can do a lot of that too.
Yeah, it's a heavy reliance on technology. A lot of their weapons are technology. They have
Going back to Prince Adam, he's a pretty cool character. He's flawed. He's not perfect.
nice guy.
He's a nice, likable character.
Yeah.
But he's not perfect.
Yeah, I think that was super important, something
Yeah.
that Revelations missed.
Yeah. Going to the design aesthetic, you mentioned how technology's everywhere, it's part of it. To me, when I first saw this cartoon, I felt like, oh, it's Fortnite. It's Fortnite, but He-Man.
Yeah, slightly angular, big eyes, pretty bright colors. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it's super dark. Contrasting colors. They look good. I like the design.
I feel like once they transform and get their powers and stuff, it even leans harder into the video game aspect of it, because they have super moves, they have combo moves. I felt like season 1, the writer center, what if He-Man was a video game? And that's kind of what they went with.
I was thinking more Power Rangers.
Okay.
Sailor Moon.
Okay.
Like the team with the transformations.
Moving on to his counterpart, we talked about He-Man, Prince Adam. Skeletor is his uncle, Uncle Keldor, which is canon, in one of the canons anyway. In some canons, Skeletor was a half-brother of the king. But in this one, he's his full brother, and he's Prince Adam's full
Uncle Keldor.
Well, he wants to be king, typical like Macbeth story, and he wants to be
He's
king.
Scar.
And he wants to seek power for himself.
He thinks he can do a better job.
All the voice acting is amazing. It is so on point.
Yes, whatever, just do it already.
Beast Wars Megatron, David Kaye, he adds so much gravitas and intelligence to this role.
Now that's what I call a claw.
Yes, Cringer is like this intelligent, thoughtful, uses $3 words.
In a cast of great characters, he's one of the best.
He is one of the best, and so he's not the scared coward.
He's not the guy who hides in the corner, but he is scared. You do see him vulnerable and weak. But Keldor, he understood magic.
He poisoned himself where his hand turned into a skeleton because he was trying to
Get the power of
Grayskull. And in this continuity, there's two powers. They call it later Grayskull Gold. And then there's Havoc power, drawing from the Havoc staff, the name of his original staff. In the original, there was just power. Skeletor was Skeletor. He didn't have any.
He just shot lasers.
Sorry. Let's talk about continuity a little bit. I know we're jumping around a lot, but He-Man had tons of continuity, and you have to understand that none of that continuity was important because back then their main goal was to sell toys. If you read any of the interviews from any of the people involved in making He-Man, now their attitude has changed because they're a little more excited and it's how they make their money by talking about it. But if you read some older interviews from like 10, 15 years ago, they all sound and say the same thing. It was a job.
Yeah.
No, there was nothing behind that. We thought it was a cool design.
Yeah, and
There's no backstory. There's no forethought. or anything.
And you didn't have a consistent writing staff.
Yeah.
Like the episodes, He-Man was kind of different, had a different personality. I mean, there was a basic brand Bible, they call it, where they had to follow these rules, but it's super loosey-goosey. That's a manly term. But different stuff would happen. And then the mini pack in comics, those had different writers.
There was the mini comic continuity, there was the cartoon continuity, and the mini comic changed halfway through, sometimes to match, sometimes to whatever. But that's because there wasn't a brand continuity with new characters. So, like in the original, for example, there was no Prince Adam. In the mini comics, He-Man was just always He-Man. And the Power Sword didn't grant him any power. He was just this barbarian dude. In the mini comic, they introduced this idea of Keldor, and how Skeletor wanted to cover up the secret of Keldor. The show and the comics ended, and we never got the conclusion. But later interviews with writers said, yeah, that was the conclusion, was that he was Keldor, and he was somehow transformed. And you never found out how or anything. Because none of the characters had backstories, really. Teela's another example of one that had several different backstories that were all different. So continuity and what is canon in He-Man has always been loose, and it's always been based on what's going to sell the toy. There was nothing sacred about... Well,
not in the original.
Not in the original. So I feel that this show is great because it's pulling from everything. Even the Super 7 figures that they brought out later added some continuity, pulling from comics, pulling from the toys, and then filling in gaps with their own. This show takes from all of those, smashes it up, and pulls out what they want.
Consistent.
Yes.
Throughout.
Because the continuity was so all over the place, some of the stories they came up with were only to explain how characters looked. So there wasn't like a greater thought behind it. It was like, oh, this is a cool backstory. That's like, no, why is he a skeleton? I don't know. He was fused with a demon. Yeah. Why is he blue then? He's half Gar. What's a Gar? I don't know. Quit asking me these questions. So a lot of
Explain snout spout.
So a lot of this stuff they came up with that people may or may not hold sacred, it's like they were pulling stuff out of their rear end.
They were just writing.
They were just writing it to explain how the toy looked.
They were doing Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah,
they were just going down the page.
Why is Castle Grayskull He-Man's place when it looks like Skeletor's face? It doesn't make any sense.
Keldor, he's looking for the power of Grayskull.
He's trying to get the power of Grayskull, and there's two weapons. There's the sword and the scepter, and the sorceress tells him you have to choose. And the sorceress is Eldris.
Oh, that's right.
And she says, I can't tell you what the answer is, you have to choose. And he looks at the sword, he's like, the sword is a warrior's weapon. A warrior does what he's told. The scepter is a symbol of a king. And he puts it in the big beam of energy, and it unleashes Havoc.
Through the purity of Havoc.
Havoc is like the evil side of Grayskull energy. And it turns him into Skeletor. And he's able to control it.
But he looks really cool. We can talk about the aesthetics later, but overall I think the villains stuck closer to the original design. The heroes, they changed more.
What I love about it is that there was this new element they added where it's not just He-Man that changes, everyone changes. It's like the Power Rangers or anyone, like they get beefed up. I love that as a storytelling element, as a plot device, because you then don't have to explain why they look like they do, or you can more vaguely explain it. Like in the original, everyone had to be from their own race or their own planet or their own dimension, and they have that. Then they have to add characters. And now it's like, no, that's what your inner self is. So this is what Havoc makes you. So he's an evil skeleton man, and that's why he looks like that, because the Havoc, because he looks like a human as Keldor. There's no blue skin at all. He's not half Gar, which is this alternate alien race, which again has its own backstory, and what are Gar, and all the blue-skinned people are now Gar. So they got rid of all that complexity and made it simple. No, you just transform. When the evil energy's in you, you turn into what your inner self is.
And I like how they have an item to link them.
Yes!
They all had a specific item that had something to do with them. A personal effect.
Yes.
And that is what the Havoc energy, or for the heroes, the power of Grayskull channeled through them to change them.
And he's able to share the power with his evil people, and his conduit, Cronus got his jaw broken, so he has this metal jaw to talk, and he turns into Trapjaw. His whip allows him to turn into Beastman because he's an animal underneath. The other thing I like about all the characters is that you don't have a comedic character. They're all funny at times. And Skeletor brings in what the original Skeletor...
however you say it.
He's funny sometimes. He'll say a big dramatic speech and says, "Was that too much? I was just kind of feeling it, you know?"
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's like, oh, that was so good. So he brings in some of that Oppenheimer humor that he developed for Skeletor.
When he meets Prince Adam as Keldor, and he tells him, "You may explode them now."
Yeah, and they all have funny moments.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. You may explode them. So no character is the joke character.
Yeah.
This is a heavy scene. Let's bring some Orko in here. Yeah. Like, they all have their funny moments. And they're all within the confines of their personality, too. So it's still true to them. Some other major changes. Let's talk about the heroes. So they made Ram Man, which is probably one of the stupidest characters from the original. He was an idiot, for one, and my head hurts. Turn her into this woman in Crass, a teenager like Adam. She is Ram Mam. And I know some people in the beginning, before the cartoon came out, rolled their eyes, like, another unnecessary feminization of a character.
But it makes sense.
It works so well.
Like, they explained it well. Like, if when people write a story and they make a big change, like gender change a character, this is the way to do it. I think it makes so much sense.
They gave her a heart-filled backstory about her parents and the helmet, and her conduit of power is the Ramstone.
Right, yeah.
The cracked, that was her father's. They died in a crash or something. She's got like bluish purplish skin, so she's like another alien. They don't really ever go into it. As a tangent, they do have Too Bad hidden in there. Too Bad was the guy that had was fused to evil
heads.
Warriors, and he was split down the middle. Those characters are royal guards, and they're really funny. They both have English accents, and they're always like, "What do we do?" And it's their original canon names. They call each other by their original canon names, but in the future that they may get fused, because that's Too Bad. Another swap they had is, of course, to add more of a diversity, is they made the sorceress someone with darker skin. Now she has yellow eyes and white hair.
But it totally fits. It totally fits with the universe.
Yeah.
Because you have a guy with blue skin, or girl with blue skin, you have this other guy with green skin. Okay, it makes sense that...
Yeah.
And she's...
you don't question it.
No, you don't
just
question
like, it's awesome.
It fits in with the universe perfectly.
They really revamped how the characters look. The most reminiscent, I think, is Duncan into the Man-at-Arms. He's the most reminiscent of the original. But even then, I mean, would you look at him not knowing the show and say, "Oh, that's Man-at-Arms"?
He's pretty different.
Not really. He has the big pauldron and he's the same color.
And even He-Man looks pretty different. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't have the Iron Cross. They made it into an H symbol.
Yeah, he wears a sleeveless shirt. He wears pants. Mistake number one!
Not my He-Man. Hashtag not my He-Man.
He-Man ain't got no pants. He ain't He-Man if he has pants.
Yeah, furry underwear.
I'd draw the line. Yeah, that was not on our list. Must have furry
underwear. Well, but you didn't make it in the show. Yeah, no one puts that at the top of the list. What does He-Man do? Furry underwear.
Like, okay, I'm gonna ask someone else.
That's it.
What would be number 2? No, that's it.
That's it. That's number 1 and 10.
Of course, the good guys are all teenagers. The bad guys are all adults. We didn't mention Evelyn into Evil Lynn. She's super tall. Got this tiny little short torso and these long spindly spiders.
Here's another thing I really like, and I like this when they do this with Transformers too, is when they have different body types. They're not all the same. You know, so many of the Transformers in the cartoon had the heroic big shoulders, tiny waist. That's the way they were always drawn. And even the comic books, they do that. But then you have different characters who are skinnier, who are taller, who are shorter and rounder. And you did have that in G1 cartoon. You did have some stumpy characters. Visually, it's cool when you have different proportions. Beastman's wider, he has longer arms.
The female characters are, I feel like, there's no like super feminine, like, oh, I'm gonna wait in the tower and to be rescued. There's no female characters.
Those
like
days are
that.
over.
Duncan is like the most kind of unsure of himself, but they make that part of his character. So it's not like, oh, we're just gonna wuss out this, you know, he was the Man-at-Arms before, he was the older guy with the mustache, he was the dad. He was the dad of the original, and oh, I see, they made him wimpy because because he was an authority figure and we're going to make him wimpy. No, I don't feel they did that. They make his unsure of himself part of his character and his character arc and his growth.
It's more, not that he's unsure of himself, he's just a more timid person. He's not a fighter.
Yes, and a lot of the comedy comes through him.
Yeah, and it works. It works really well.
It works really well.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say he's unsure. He's just more timid. He's not the fighter. He's the techno guy. He does the technology.
Yeah, he's the nerdy guy, right?
He's the nerdy guy, and something we didn't talk about is he was training under.
Yeah. Yeah, Duncan was Cronus's apprentice, and Tila was Evelyn's apprentice.
So they had this automatic, built-in, right away, rivalry.
Yeah, and of course we talked about their rivalry too. Mm-hmm. So everyone has a nemesis, except for Crass.
And there's a reason for that.
And there's a reason for that, which we won't go into. She was like the extra hero that didn't have a nemesis. And they actually mention that in the show and go into it.
Yeah, and I think they already had that planned out. That's the other thing, this show, it's a team show. They're all together, they all share the power, they're all equally powerful.
Just like Skeletor shares his power with the evil masters, which is what they call them, Dark Masters, He-Man transforms the others. Mm-hmm. And again, it explains how they got their powers and
later on, they're able to do it themselves.
Yes. So the new phrase is, we have the power.
Which I think is awesome. Totally works.
In our society, we talk more about teams and how a community is very important. I think technology in the past we're getting deep here. In the past 15, 20, 30 years, people have gotten away from community and teams and interaction with people. And you can blame it on technology, but I think you can also blame it on media.
COVID.
Well, way before that, I think we were on this trend. I mean, think about previously communities, neighborhoods would raise children, and now no one ever plays in a neighborhood. You just stay inside your house. Because everyone's like a pedophile or
you get scared.
Yeah, so I think the media is to blame for that too. We're going back into, I know this because in my professional career I'm training a lot on teamwork, team building, leadership and stuff, and it's all going back into relationships. So I think it's important that this show is reaffirming teamwork. I have the power, but you have the power too. You know what? We have the power.
Yeah, and also, He-Man is good at this one thing, but he's not good at this other thing. So he brings this other team member who's good at that one thing.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's a good show.
I highly recommend the show. Hopefully, I've sold everyone on that. I hope they keep doing it. They teased a new villain. They teased that they're going to keep going, so maybe it's been renewed for several seasons. Don't be thrown off by how different it is. Just come in with the expectation, this is not my He-Man, this is a total reimagining.
It's better than the original.
We mentioned this before when we tried to go back and watch original He-Man. It's not very rewatchable. It's been several years, so maybe with different eyes, now that I'm older, I may have a different perspective on it, but it was very kiddie, very simple.
It talked down to you.
It was a little drawn out. Transformers, you mentioned this, Transformers went so fast.
Transformers moves at a breakneck pace. The pacing of the episode, it's like a rocket ship. It just goes. Take that, first few episodes and turn it into a show now. You could get 3 or 4 plots for one episode because it just moves.
He's at the dam. We need to go there. What? He's in space. We need to go.
it's just one thing after another, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense. It's like, why did that even happen?
Yeah.
He-Man is hard to watch. I felt like Thundercats you need to watch it with someone to make fun of.
And Thundercats you can watch ironically.
Yeah,
I think, and it's enjoyable. Transformers you can still watch today, but there's issues. It's really quick.
It's still entertaining.
He-Man is almost unwatchable. G.I. Joe, I don't know. I haven't tried that. All this to say, it wasn't as good as you thought. But this show is really, really good. My kids love it. It's something I feel like my kids can watch and really enjoy, and I can watch it too. It's not for little kids. My 4-year-old gets scared at some of the Skeletor stuff.
Yeah, that might be something to mention. A couple of the transformations, some of them are really creepy.
They're really good.
Like, if you're into spooky stuff, this is awesome. When he transforms, Rakaz turns to stone, or he freezes, and Beastman rips open his chest and crawls out. Even Evil Lynn makes these really super creepy faces right at the camera. And she doesn't even change that much.
Yeah.
It's just a costume change. His is pretty neat.
He was scary too, with the teeth.
Do you want to talk about the toys real quick?
We can. Low Art Deco on them. Is that the term for it? Very few joints. They all have an action. Very, very simple.
OG swipe.
Yeah, and it's actually,
like
there's a spring in there, so they have the swipe and down. so he can, like... I mean, how metal is that?
A skeleton.
He had a flick fire missile. What I mean by that is you put it in there and you just hit it like that. It doesn't work great. But he also has the twist motion. They all do. They look like the show. I think that's number one for any toy line.
And these are fairly inexpensive for how big they are.
Yes. As of the recording of this video, they haven't come out yet, but they are making He-Man and the Skeletor that are more adult-centered. They look exactly like the show, but they have all the articulation, the more adult-centered He-Mans right now. Only He-Man and Skeletor right now. Very, very good show. If we haven't sold it to you, please go watch it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe if you made it this far. Are we totally off with this He-Man stuff and our philosophies of what reboots and nostalgia really are and why it's important? Let us know in the comments. Did you like the CG He-Man? Were you skeptical at first? And then you saw it and you were like us and like, whoa, this is amazing. And I came into this kind of like not expecting much.
Yeah, let's see what it... I kind of felt like that too. I was like, let's see what it's about. I think that just the standard for making a story is way higher than it used to be.
Oh yeah. I've been Justin.
I'm Kyle.
And we will see you very soon. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Let us know if you want us to do Miraculous Ladybug. You can cut that out.